internet world from quite a bright, if not occasionally showery, Cheshire this morning in the United Kingdom in England. And I'm saying this because I realise now something that I didn't realise when I started doing this streaming thing just over a week ago. And that is that people have been watching this stream from thousands and thousands of miles away, which I find absolutely mind blowing, to be perfectly honest. I got, as far as I know, I mean, and it might be further than this, but as far as I know, sitting here in my little studio in the Cheshire countryside, smack in the heart of England, I have actually been watched painting these pictures by Texas in the west and India in the east. That's thousands of miles apart, and to someone who lived most of their life in the age before the internet, that's mind blowing. It really is. I mean, it used to be mind blowing when I was a child. The thought that you could actually get on the telephone and you could ring somebody in America, say, or wherever, and speak to them on the telephone. That was magic. But this is incredible. I mean, it really is. And those of you who have grown up in the post-internet age, you know, those of you really since the turn of the century, you won't have any inkling really as to what it was like in the years before, because this is just your life. This is what you've known. But to me, this is magic. So all of you who are watching wherever you are in the world, greetings, and I hope I make your time here worthwhile. So, we are on painting number 7 in this project. I Paint Your Life. Not to be confused with paintyourlife.com. Please don't get me confused with paintyourlife.com. I have nothing to do with paintyourlife.com. I am one man. I just realised I stuck 2 fingers up there. I am one man, that's better. I am one man, all on his own, in England, sitting painting pictures from the lives of my friends and followers. And this one this morning is a very special one because it's come from a very special friend and follower. It is come from Karen, who is at this moment, I imagine, fast asleep because she's 5 hours away from me in Texas. So, Karen, when you wake up, you'll be able to watch the replay of this, and I hope you enjoy watching it. Karen has sent me a particular challenge, and this is probably one of the biggest challenges that I've actually ever been sent. Let's have a look at the photograph that Karen sent. Well, there it is. Man with chicken. That's what I'm calling it anyway. I have no idea who the man is. I have no idea who the chicken is. I'm trying to remember what breed the chicken is, and I used to have to keep chickens about 30 odd years ago. And I kept some chickens like that, but I cannot remember the breed, so forgive me. This painting brings on all sorts of challenges. Not least, we're talking, this is a portrait. This is a portrait of somebody that somewhere people know. And people are going to look at this and they're going to say, gosh, that's whatever his name is, you know. And I want them to be able to recognise him, so I've got to get the likeness. I've got to pin that likeness down. But the other challenge is, and if I go above here, there we go. The other challenge is that this is the size of the head that I'm working in. I'm almost working in miniature. Let me just get this, put it by the side of it. And there you'll see there's a ruler by the side of his head. That'll give you some idea of the size that I'm working at. I'm working at round about a couple of inches, or in metric, about 5.5 centimetres or so. And I'm working, and I'm going to try and capture that portrait in watercolour at that size, and that's not a small challenge. Normally, I say normally, but quite often when I work on a portrait like this, you'll find that I will tend to shy away from the face for a long time. I'll wait until I've got everything else in place before I start working on the face. But that's a dangerous way of working. It's a very dangerous way of working, because that's the most important part of this portrait, that face. And if I get the face right, and then I make some kind of mistake on the checkered shirt, or even on the chicken. I mean, nobody's going to recognise the chicken, are they? Let's face it. Not unless you are real chicken buffs. You're not going to recognise the individual chicken. I can get the costume wrong. I can get the background wrong. I can even possibly get the hands wrong, and it won't matter 100,000,000%. But if I get the face wrong, this is just bin job. It's absolutely useless if I get the face wrong. So I'm going to I'm going to control myself this morning, and I'm going to actually start working on the face first, which goes against my natural instincts. And the reason I think that I tend to usually go for the face after I've done the other stuff, which is a bit flying by the seat of your pants, it is, I think it's that ta-da moment, isn't it? It's that, hey, look at this, we've done it, ba-da! You know, you can hear the fanfare of trumpets or whatever. But I'm not going to take that risk on this one, because this is going to be quite a job to get this one done. So I am armed with my trusty mug of tea. Oh, my tea is reacting to the green screen. That's quite odd. Ah, there we go. You know, I until I started this green screening business, I had no idea how many green t-shirts I have, and how many green t-shirts I wear that I can't wear because I'd just disappear and I'd just be a floating head. So right, let's head down onto this one and take a good look at the portrait. It is softer in reality. This photograph that's been sent to me is in softer focus than it appears on your screen. On my screen, the screen that's in front of me here, I think because of the size of the image, it seems quite tightly focused. But in reality, when you get it on a slightly larger scale to be able to work from it, it's anything but. It's quite soft focus. So I'm going to probably tighten it up as I go, because the nature of watercolour is making me going to want to do that. The colours in this picture are really, I mean, absolutely beautiful. I think the colours that Karen has captured in this photograph work together so beautifully, and if I can get any of that into a watercolour, I will be delighted with the result. The colours in the face are extremely subtle. We do have an element of what's known as chiaroscuro or chiaroscuro, I don't know how you want to pronounce it. When I was doing art at college, we were taught to say chiaroscuro, so whether that's right, I don't know. I don't speak Italian. But basically we're saying that one side of the face is in shadow and one side of the face is highlighted. It's the old Caravaggio thing. So we want to be able to get that. We want to be able to get a soft line between the hair and the forehead, because it graduates into the hair. There's no hard line when you look at this this photograph between that there. Let's get mixing one or two colours here. Excuse my irritating little cough that I've got this morning. It's driving me mad. Let's just clean this one off a little bit. I will be using, predominantly when I am working on this face, Rose Doré, which is probably my favourite colour for working with skin tones. It makes a great base. It's a pigment that doesn't stain, so it's quite easy to put it on and take it off and gradually work it into place. And I'm using a mixture of Rose Doré and a slight touch of burnt sienna, and that's going to be probably the base for the whole thing, with a little touch maybe of raw burnt sienna. Actually, maybe you can see this. I'm not used to actually bringing this into play, but here you can see what I'm doing if I bring this onto the mat. We've got room for the head, and we've got room for the palette. So we've got Rose Doré, here we've got Rose Doré mixed with a little burnt sienna, and a little, but very, very carefully, because I don't want it to go in any way opaque. I want to keep it soft. A little bit of burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is a fantastic colour, but you have to be very careful when you're using yellow ochre in a watercolour, because it's an opaque colour, and if you use it too strong, it will go it will take the transparency out of your picture, and that's something that we desperately don't want. Working as usual with my trusty piece of kitchen roll in my left hand, my brush in my right hand. We're just going to take a little look at this image, being very, very, very careful not to take away the whites of the eyes. I'm tempted. Should I? Or should I just go for it? Part of me, as usual, is tempted to mask out the white so that I don't make a mistake. Do I take the risk or not? Oh, let's be careful. Let's just go in it carefully. So I'm going to put down, first of all, just a little hint here of Rose Doré. Remembering to try and leave the highlight of white there. Now, you see that I've taken most of that off as I'm working, which leaves here a much lighter tone. There are on here a few pencil lines that are giving me an indication of where everything is. They will not be, I'm not rubbing them off. They will not come off. They will be part of the painting when the painting is complete. But they won't be too apparent once the rest of the pigment goes on. Let's bring that Rose Doré with a little touch of burnt sienna down the bridge of the nose. And down one side of the face, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, building the paint in gentle layers, not taking care not to go too dark at any one point. We can come in here, we can go and put that into the top of the brow, the top of the lid, the eyelid. The eyelid, you can see, has got a highlight on it that we do not want to lose. And let's come down, we can bring this under the eye. It will be there is going to be a glint there, but I think I will add that afterwards, just with a tiny touch of white. Otherwise it's going to be really difficult to work around that. Get that light, work it very gently. Can take it round here, because that's going to have more colour put over it, and being careful to bring it down here and not to go into the beard and moustache really, because the beard and moustache are white. The reason I'm not masking them, you might wonder, because you know, if you've been watching, you know that I use a lot of masking fluid to create things. But the reason that I'm not masking them here is that sometimes when you use masking fluid, the paint will pool against the edge of the masking fluid. And when it does that, my goodness, I've just noticed. Good morning, Karen. What time is it in Texas? Have you not gone to bed, or have you just woken up in the middle of the night? I mean, I'm gobsmacked that you're here watching. I really am. And Raven Nova up there on Twitch says, I'm adorable. My goodness gracious me. I am flattered. Thank you very much, my dear Raven Nova, whoever you are. That's very nice of you. Oh my goodness gracious me. 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. That is commitment. Whether that means that you need to be committed for such insanity, I don't know, but really and truly that is commitment. God, I better get it right now, hadn't I, Karen? I tell you. No messing this one up. I am being very, very gentle in the way that I apply this. It has to be subtle. I won't put too much in there because I will be putting a little bit of a different sort of red in there. I'm going to come over the bridge of the rose. Even though it's highlighted, it's not pure white. There is a gentle toning in here. And we can come down the nose because it's going to be darker on that side. I'm determined to be very patient and to build this one gradually, taking great care to keep the tones gently building up, putting on, taking off, putting on, taking off, working in such a way as that I don't mess the whole thing up. This is by no means the smallest portrait that I've painted. You wouldn't believe some of the things that I've been given to paint over the years and asked to do. When you get given a portrait to do of someone, and literally the face on the portrait is the size of, it's smaller than a penny or a cent, as you would say. It really becomes, and of course they want a likeness. They don't want it has to be the person. It can't not be the person. It has to be recognisable, and so it becomes very difficult to to make it work, and it's quite nerve-wracking actually when it's so small. Starting to emerge. I must say, Raven Nova, if you're still watching, thank you very much for actually coming and joining us this morning, because I only started streaming on Twitch yesterday, so it's a very new thing for me there. I'm not in no way established, so I can't be expecting instant results and a lot of people sort of joining in straight away, but it does seem quite an exciting platform, I have to say, because I had no idea until not the night before last how many artists are actually working and streaming at any one time on Twitch, and I was absolutely amazed when I saw it. I've always thought of Twitch as a platform just for gamers, people playing World of Warcraft or all the different games that they stream. But it was my son who said to me the other day that I should try Twitch. He's a gamer. Gaming has been his thing all his life, really. He's in his mid-20s now, but she said, no, it's not just for gamers. It's very much for all sorts of people. So I went to have a look, and there were all these people sitting painting and drawing, mostly digital, I have to say. Very few with a brush in their hand. I didn't see anybody doing watercolour, so that could be a bit of a bonus for me. I don't know. Well, let's find out. I'm not going to be able to properly establish the depth around the ear and everything until I have got the till I've got the shadow in behind. So I might at some point before I finish this the face off. Let's knock that down. Trying to go for a tone here. This might look dramatic, this tone that I'm mixing, but I'm looking for a tone to take me down the shadow side of the face. And what I've got here is a very gentle mix of burnt umber and a tiny touch just to dull it down of Payne's Grey. So let's see, it looks dramatic, but if we put it on and take it off again, we'll see that it's going to be almost right. I don't know whether you've ever seen anybody paint like this before, in the way that I paint with these pigments. Very much put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, so that it doesn't actually go too dark. And remembering to, we've got to blend. We can't just go in a straight line, that would look wrong. And so we're working a lot of the time wet into wet, so that we keep the edges as soft as possible. I do like doing portraits. I do. It's very satisfying to see a person emerge from basically nowhere. To see somebody emerge from the tip of your brush very slowly out of the paper. A tiny touch more of the paint grey, just down here, a little streakette, and get the blue touch. It gives a touch of blue into the shadows. Yeah, it's okay. Karen, I've been toying around with the idea of putting another camera up. I just haven't really had time to do it yet. It's amazing the amount of time that is involved in trying to get this thing going. If I'm not painting, I am working out the tech side of it, or I'm on social media trying to work out how to get the streaming thing right, and it's very time consuming in terms of brain power. It's very time consuming. You find yourself constantly thinking about it, constantly thinking, all right, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do the other, This is just water that's on my brush at the moment. What I'm doing is I'm just places where we might be hard lining when we don't want that. I'm just going in there and softening things off, taking my time. It's hard to tell yet how dark I'm going to need to go on this side of the face, so I'm being quite cautious. Because of course when I put the background in, these tones will look different. This is the gamble. This is really why quite often I like to have the background tones in there early on. Just keeping it soft at the trying to anyway. Keep it soft at the edge there, where we're going to go into the hair. Keeping the shadow fairly warm, whilst trying to well, this is a contradiction in terms, whilst trying to keep it cool as well. The shadows work best when they are cool and the highlights warm, but the overall tone of this particular painting is warm, so we don't want to can't lose that warmth. Okay. With the let's do another mix here. Let's do a mix of the Rose Dorée taken down. There's rather a lot there. Actually, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not too much. Taken down a key or two. Oh, actually, looking at that, 3, with some Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey is a fantastic colour. It really is. I use it so much because that's better. Not only is it a flexible blue, really. It can be black if you put it on thick enough. It can be blue if you put it on lighter, and it's not particularly staining, which means that if I want to take some of it off, even a couple of hours later after I put it on, I can get a damp brush and just work it gently and take it off again. I don't know whether any of you were watching. I know you were, Karen. I don't know. Were watching me paint the train yesterday. But if you were and you watched it in its stages, as I did it, you may have noticed that at the end of session 2, I'd made a mistake. That mistake being that I want some of this only with more water in it coming down the nose. That mistake being that I'd actually painted the very, very front part of that train almost black with strong Payne's Grey. And it wasn't until I looked at it, I think you have to be very careful towards the end of sessions, because you start to get tired, you start to make mistakes. And I came to take a look at it late on at night before I went to bed, and I could see straight away what I'd done, and I was able just to pick up a brush with a little bit of this brush. It wasn't even a hard brush, just a nice soft brush, with a little water on it, and just go over it and dab it and take away what was ostensibly black and take it away enough so that the next day I could put the red over it and nobody could tell. We're coming. I don't want to overwork that side because at the moment I'm not sure what the tonal balance is. Dave's Grey or Davies Grey, I think some companies call it Davies Grey. I've never really used it. It's a lighter grey, isn't it? It's not a colour that I'm familiar with. Payne's Grey, you have to be careful with Payne's Grey in some respects when you're buying it. I don't know what brand you bought, but if you look at this card, I don't know whether you can see it clearly enough. Let's turn it around so you can see the writing on it. This is one of my swatches where I'm just working out the flow of paint, putting a line of paint down here and then flowing it across just to see what I'm getting here. And if you can see from this is Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey. This is Daler-Rowney Payne's Grey. This is a blue, quite an obvious blue tint. This is very much grey, a lot greyer. This is the one that I use, the one that's a blue. So when I'm buying it, I have to remind myself to buy Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey because that's the one I want. Because I have bought Daler-Rowney in the past and gone, that's not the right colour. So it's the same with all these colours. One company will make them in a totally different shade than another, and it'll have the same name. Yay! Well, in that case, we're on the same page, Karen. That's great. I definitely encourage you to experiment with that Payne's Grey and see what you can do with it. I mean, when I say experiment, try painting a whole picture just in Payne's Grey. Do a monochrome and see what you can get it to do. Putting it on, taking it off. Learn its properties. It's the same with all these paints. You've got to learn their properties and then start to use that. I'm staying very, very pale on this side of the face. We've got to get some colour in there without making it go dark, because otherwise we'll lose this chiaroscuro, and we don't want to do that. Okay, I think it's time to bring in the greys, the browny greys, and to do that we're going to use, let's rotate the little rose here. Lovely palette this to work on. And so we've got a grey. This is neutral tint. If you're looking at this and you've got if you're watching on YouTube, which most people aren't, so I don't think it matters, but YouTube, as I'm doing this, it tries to subtitle it. And for some reason it just cannot handle the word tint the way I say it. it will put anything other than the word tint onto the screen, which can be a bit embarrassing because I have no idea what a neutral cheat is, which is what it was put in the other day, and I certainly wasn't saying that. Until you actually put the darker parts of everything in, like the eyebrows, you don't really get to properly judge the other tones. So they have to come in fairly early. Let's just soften that. See, with that there now, I can see that we need to bring this down, so keeping a bit of that on the brush there, we'll bring that down a little bit, and we go into here and darken things a little bit. We're working with a paint that is it's not, in a way, portraits I find are actually a lot easier in oil paint because oil paint's more forgiving. You can blend it, it will blend beautifully, it will blend easily. If you make a mistake, you just paint over it. If I make a mistake doing this, I've got to be able to lift it, dab it out quickly, or get in there with a brush, wet it and lift it and lighten it up. This type of watercolour painting at this scale is like painting miniatures. It really is. Must be what it's like painting. I've never tried painting a miniature. I did try painting eggs at one time, many years ago. I soon learnt that there was no money in trying to sell painted eggs. But it was a challenge. And I remember spending literally hours and hours and hours painting a very realistic tiger's head onto a duck egg, and it was quite impressive when it was done, but there was no way at all that you were going to be able to recoup a price for that work. That it would just, people see that it's that small and the value goes down, and they see, actually I think it's also, they see things like that as a craft rather than as an art. And as soon as they perceive something to be a craft rather than an art, the price goes down. So that was a short-lived thing. I think people forget, or just don't realise, or don't, whatever, that if you are trying to be professional at something, you're trying to make a living out of it, just like anybody, whether it be a shop worker or a solicitor or whoever. You are trying to survive by doing it. And I think because what we do is well, I've had it said to me, well, you're doing something that you enjoy doing, and yes, I am. But why should that devalue what I do? Just because I enjoy doing it doesn't mean that you know, if a doctor gets a satisfaction for and feels a sense of worth and everything from operating on people and saving lives, does that devalue what they do? No. We are getting there, I think. You're going to have to be careful not to go too far and overwork it. I remember when there was a time when I'd gone through a relationship breakup. You know, this happens to us all, doesn't it, at some time in our lives, where I was back in Stoke-on-Trent, which is where I was born, in a place that I hadn't lived for 18 years. I didn't really know anybody anymore. And I was having to try and eke out a living as best as I could. And so I took my easel and set it up in the street of the town, which I'd done this for a few years before. And I put my sign up by my side, and I drew people in the street. I drew what I called lightning portraits. You know, sit down in front of me, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're done. Next one, please. But I also would put a couple of boards by my side showing other things that I'd done and saying, you know, let me paint your child, your cat, your dog, your whoever, whatever. And basically I was trying to raise commissions, and I did. I raised a number of commissions, thank goodness. And careful at this point, because the nostrils are a big part of the likeness. Be very careful around here. Let's take that down. Yeah, and so I'd be trying to raise commissions. And I remember having a conversation with a chap that came and asked me how much it would be to do a painting for him or whatever. And I told him the price. And he went, oh, that's rather expensive. And I think because I was in the street, he instantly was sort of devaluing anything that I might be doing anyway in his head. And I said, well, basically it comes down to, it's going to take me this amount of time to do your painting, and you know, my time is worth this much an hour. This was back in the early 90s. And I said, do you mind me asking what you do for a living? He said, I'm a solicitor. And I said, right, there's your answer, mate. How much an hour do you get paid? How much an hour do you get charged for your work? Because I almost guarantee you that you get charged per hour. You charge per hour more than I'm asking you for this painting. And it's going to take me a few hours. So take it or leave it. Anyway, sorry, what did you say in there, Karen? Do you find your work is also devalued because you can turn out a great painting in just a few hours? No. No, I don't. I don't find that. To be perfectly honest, the prices that I am asking for these paintings is peanuts compared to what really and truly what I should be charging for them. I do them at this price for these projects, basically to try and, what did they used to say at Tesco's? Pile it high and sell it cheap. The idea is to be able to do as many as possible, and that way keep the price down. But when it comes down to it, the price of an artwork shouldn't in the end be related to the amount of time it's taken to do, because that's not actually the way that it works. It's not the way that it works in the art world. It's and neither is it down to your technical competence. In the end, you can get millions and millions of pounds for something that you haven't even worked on. Okay, hardly anyway. Your what's the phrase here? Your assistants, in inverted commas, have worked on. There are famous artists who have sort of workshops, and in those workshops they have assistants working with them, and those assistants do actually the majority of painting on the subject. I was really, really, really disappointed when I found out that I don't know whether you know the work of Bridget Riley, the op artist, does all the what's names, the interference patterns, lots and lots of lines close together that make a wobbly image in your head when you look at it because it interferes with your brain. And I was watching this program, and it turns out that those paintings, an awful lot of them, they're not even painted by her. She comes up with the idea, and then, because it's a laborious task, they're her assistants paint in the stripes. And in my estimation, I just thought, what the hell is this world coming to? That we value something. I mean, these paintings don't, and these paintings, because of who she is, sell for thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, dollars, whatever you want to be working in. And when you think that the majority of the work on it, or in some situations all the work on it, is done by assistants, it's hard to fathom, as far as I'm concerned. What are you buying? And she's by no means alone. It's as if the more abstract or conceptual, that's the word, isn't it? Conceptual is the word that I'm looking for. The more conceptual your art is, the more it doesn't really matter what your role in it has been. It's just the fact that you had the idea. Damon Hirst, his the famous skull covered in diamonds, that is credited to Damon Hirst. It was his idea. He didn't set all those diamonds in that skull. He didn't sit for hours on end setting each one of those stones into the skull. That's not what he does. He has the idea, he has the concept. That object is worth a small fortune, and he just had the idea, basically. Actually, shouldn't start me on this one. Shouldn't start me on conceptual art, because I'm very much, I struggle with the value that is put upon it. I might find a photograph for you that's it's on my, stored in my images somewhere, and it's me standing in the Tate Gallery in London in front of Tracy Emin's unmade bed, her dirty unmade bed, and I just, my face says it all. But I as regards sort of the work that you put into it, in the end you're selling a finished piece. And these pieces are deliberately small. These pieces that I am working on here and that I'm doing, they're deliberately small. They are kept small so that I can try and do one in a day. So I try and charge the equivalent to a day's work, plus some more to cover the fact that actually this isn't the only part of the business. There is so much more to it than the actual painting. The amount of time invested in social media, especially, to actually get this thing going and keep it rolling, it is ridiculous, really, the amount of time that you have to spend. And remember, there's only me. So in the end, you ask what you think you can get, because I think pricing your work is one of the most difficult things to get to grips with. I have struggled with it all my life, really, because it all depends who you're asking. To some degree, it all depends who you're talking to. If you're talking to someone that doesn't have a lot of money, then the price that I ask for my paintings, the price that I need to ask to make it worthwhile we're doing it, is beyond them, and it seems extortionate. But I can ask that same price to someone else and they think, well, that's cheap. Or that's value for money, or whatever. It's hard to tell. I sold my first painting in, gosh, what year would it be? It would be round about 1987, 88. I sold my first painting and I sold it for £18. What would that be for you? But it's less than $25, about $23. It had taken me a while to do. Within 6 months, I sold my first painting for that got £500, and it had taken me 45 minutes to do. You can't tell. Well, in the end, you have to value your own work. And say, that's the price, that's what I want for it, that's what I need to make doing this worthwhile. If people can afford it, they can afford it. If they can't, they can't. That's the way it goes. What's this? Oh, hello, Judith. Good morning to you. There's a Facebook news item not long ago about a gallery that had a large graffiti type work with paints and brushes on the floor, and visitors thought that people were supposed to add to it. So it did. So apparently it was supposed to be worth millions. Oh dear, I don't think it. Well, you love it, don't you, when it all goes wrong. It makes it all worthwhile. it must be strange watching this actually appear up there. I don't know, on my screen it's not giving me the correct colours. It's looking a bit cool. It's a lot warmer in reality down here. I don't know what colour it's coming out as on your computer or your phone or whatever, your tablet or whatever you're watching on. But let's... I think we'll go with that actually. I mean, I can't be too precious here, it's blue. I'll have a fiddle with the camera in a minute and see if I can actually make the picture on the screen a little bit more like the picture that I can see in front of me. Because at the moment it's different. Now we're bringing in for the first time here, mixing in with the Rose Doré. Some of these are in crimson. It's a totally different shade of it's a different shade of red, but we're not going to put it on pure. We are going to just add a tiny touch of Payne's Grey. Maybe that's a little bit too much. A little goes a long, long way often in these situations. That's probably better. And let's get the lips in. When I used to do the portraits in the street, I would always follow exactly the same procedure, and from that procedure came the likeness without me trying to force the likeness. And that procedure was, I had to charge for this. This is trade secrets here. But that procedure was as I look at the subject. So it's not as they see it. It's as I see it. It's left eye, right eye, across the bridge of the nose, down the bridge of the nose, shape of the bottom of the nose and the nostrils, the septum, which you can't see on this one because he's got a beard, the line between the lips, the importance of the line between the lips, which is basically all you can see on here because of his moustache, but the line between the lips, and then more important than the actual drawing of the bottom lip is the shadow area below the bottom lip, because that's what defines it. And if you can get those right, then you're on your way to getting the lightness. The lightness lies in those places. Now this bit is got to be subtle. Because coming across the eye from this point here, can you still see? Yes, you can still see. Going across the bottom of the eye here and disappearing from view is the spectacles, the glasses, as we'd say, and then again under here, being slightly darker and more defined at that point, and disappearing into the darkness on the side of the nose. And again down here, leaving a tiny glint there, which I think is still showing for you. Tell you what, let's bring it up here. Let's see it. Let you see. It's not, the colours are not coming out right on my camera. I don't know what they're coming out like for you, but the colours are an awful lot richer than you can see there. You'll see hopefully when I take a photograph of it at halfway. Yes, indeed, the eyes, the gateway to the soul. Interesting, actually, because painting somebody with spectacles on is usually a sort of odd thing, because they distort. That's not bad. They distort, the lenses distort the eyes, but in this case he's looking over the top of them, so it's rather different. Let's just see what I can do here with a little touch of blue. I want to try and get the iris line. I'm about to wait for the blue to dry before I go round the iris line. That's it. That's it. Getting there. Getting down, need to be a bit darker here on this nostril. Little things on a portrait make all the difference in the world. They really do. Right, I think I'm going to work on. Actually, while I've got the tints going. The flesh tints. Let's get the neck in. There's no really strong white highlights on the neck, so we can actually probably just put so that we know where it's going. We can put just a base coat of the Rose Doré in mixture. It's quite hard to see on this. Let me pick my tablet up for a minute. It's quite hard to see on the tablet where the neck ends and the collar begins. That's basically it. I mean, it won't matter in the end because they will blend into each other. There we go. I'm looking forward to doing the. Now, I've just realised I should have been doing something here that bear with me a moment. Yeah, we do. Just hang on a second there. Let's go into my paintings. You can't see this. Just going into my browser for a second. That one. I don't have a lot on this computer because this is not my main computer. My main computer is in the house. This is just literally just for the art. Let me get there. There we go. Let's set that. Let's right click that. Oh, is it not going to? Hold on. Come on, it's my photograph. Let me download it. Oh, I tell you what. I'll just leave it on the screen, and hopefully, just see if I can screen share. Just a moment. I know everything's gone black. Just hang on. It will. practice. There we go. Let's okay, let's do transform, flip to screen. There we go. I think you should be able to see that now. That's a historical reenactment as we have them in this country. This is the Roundheads versus the Cavaliers. It's Civil War reenactment. And I did this painting back in 2016 for the guy that is holding the pike in his hand there, this guy here. This is actually quite a large painting. This is probably 22 by 22 or something like that. It's basically a full sheet of watercolour paper. So this is quite a big one. And it is another situation where everybody and even the horse is a portrait. Which is in a way a little bit like this one, which, oh, hold on, I have to go to the browser to do this. A little bit like this one, which I did years ago, this one. This is a point-to-point meeting, but everybody in the painting and every horse in the painting is a portrait. This was actually commissioned by the North Staffs Hunt, whose point-to-point it was. I have no attachment to hunting, whatever. Don't anybody think I do. But they wanted a print, and they asked me to do a point-to-point print. So, and everybody, the people on the horses, and everything. This chap here was the chairman of the hunt, the retiring chairman of the hunt, and it was to be presented to him as a presentation as he retired, and then they had prints made of it. So this is just, you can see I've been painting in the style that I painting in here that you're watching for a long time. This is a big watercolor. This one's like 40 by 30 something or whatever. It's a big watercolor. This is the one that the couriers drove over when I sent it to be printed. But luckily we were able to rescue it. So that's a little moment for you there. You know, I've done a lot of people doing things. This is one of my favourites. This is called Talking Pigs. This is a cattle market, Chelford Market, near to Knutsford, in Cheshire. This is the same cattle market. I like this one. It's a bit looser. I do like to paint this loose if possible. You know, I called this one Pie and Chips because of what she's serving there. But there are lots and lots. This is one of my first attempts at this sort of painting. It's a lot looser. This is in the Old Hall Hotel in Buxton, where I lived at the time. And everybody's probably seen this one. This is on my website a lot. This hangs over. This actually hangs over our fireplace in the front room, because this is a painting of our boys having their hair cut a few years ago. I mean, James here is off to university this year, so you can tell it's a few years ago. Probably about 10 years ago or something. In the barbers called the men's room. This is Rob here, in his Gucci suit. No, it's a Marni suit. It's a Marni suit, wearing his Gucci shoes. And his comment when he saw it was, he looked at it and says, "You've even done my Gucci shoes." I mean, yeah, all right, Rob. Indeed. But this is a big painting as well. This is something like 22 by 26, 28, something like that. But there we are, a little tour around my gallery there. Let's go back to the painting. Yes, indeed. Thanks for all the compliments. I'll always take as many compliments as people can throw at me. Ego the size of a mountain. But yes, indeed, the boy sitting on the bench there in the background, Matthew, who is now how old is Matthew now? Is he 21 or 22? Can't remember. Um, he's 21. Matthew, and he's got a really good hand, and he spent some time during the early part of lockdown painting, um, co- doing copies of Japanese prints from the sort of 1880s or whatever, but it's very in a way, his attention to detail mirrors what I'm doing there a little bit, but his interests are different. But no, Matthew's very good, and James actually surprised us during lockdown. He started drawing a lot. James is absolutely mad into uh, anime and Japanese books and Japanese culture and all that sort of thing. And James did some beautiful hand-done anime drawings during lockdown. So they both got it. They haven't got it from me. These are my stepkids. So it's not genetic from me. Whether it's they've got it. It's all their own. Um, but you know, my other son, my eldest son, he is he doesn't do much hand stuff and everything, but he's a dab hand at Photoshop. His artistic leanings come out in another way. He's got a degree in film, and he's just done a master's in game design. So, and my other stepson, who's a lot older now, Matt will, in a few short years, Matt will be 40. But Matt is a fantastic musician, fantastic bass player, is a sound engineer, and everything. So everybody has got artistic leanings. My daughter is, she does a lot of creative stuff. I see it online. The things she makes and the things she does and everything that she does is beautiful. She actually is a nurse the rest of the time, so she's been one of our sort of guardian angels this last 18 months. And you've got to be very proud of all of them, really. They're great kids. I must mention Amelia, who's my other stepdaughter, who has also done brilliantly. She's just done her masters and just finishing it off now. And I'm proud of all of them. I love them all. They're all different. They're all incredibly talented, and they're all wonderful kids. I've been very, very lucky to be a part of their lives. Okay, that's a little moment there can come to an end, and let's get back at looking at yon fella, my lad here. It's funny. It looks rather dark and colourless, I suppose, on that picture. I don't know where. Maybe I need different lighting. I don't know what it is. But it isn't. I can guarantee you that it isn't. And when the background goes in and the shirt goes in and everything around it goes in, it will not seem anywhere near as dark. This is the nature of these things. Don't have to worry too much about the edges here because they will be much darker paint. Except over here, this side we've got to watch out because there's a bit of shirt there. I am looking forward in this painting to doing the shirt. Karen did say to me when she asked me to have a go at this one, you don't have to do all the checks on the shirt if you don't want to. Why would I not want to? That's the best bit. That's my favourite bit, really, is doing those checks on the shirt. So hopefully we can get them really nice, because if you can get the checks on a shirt looking nice, it's really impressive. And I do like impressing. I'm a right show off. I actually really like doing this painting with people watching. It's like doing theatre. It's like being on stage or whatever, putting on a performance. I always like that. Right show off I am, I tell you. I should paint for another 20 minutes or so, I think, and then I shall call time on this one and take a break. Come back this afternoon, do some more. Or for those people who got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch this, you know who you are. I shall come back later this morning, probably, and carry on working on it. Make that a little bit smaller. Don't want to give it a hard line really. Let's go for it. Let's work in the dark of the collar. Give me something to work against, because this fades in. If you can get checks right, you get a real, I think you get a real sense of satisfaction in what you've achieved, what you've done. And of course the old chicken here, that's going to be a bit of fun, isn't it? There are so many different challenges in this particular image. Really are. I just hope I can do it justice for you. You can tell I'm into a little bit of detail here because I stopped talking. Just realised I stopped talking. So this happens later as the day goes on, doesn't it? The more you get into the detail a bit, the quieter you end up having to be. Actually, interestingly, even though I make a lot of music, when I'm not painting on camera and I'm listening to things, I actually spend a lot of time listening to things on YouTube. All sorts of random stuff on YouTube. I'm a real YouTube, addict. I am quite political, I suppose, and I listen to quite a lot of political commentary. People on YouTube and everything that I follow, I listen to and have a lot of sort of technique stuff playing. I do have a penchant occasionally for a good story, for an audio book. I listen. In fact, maybe year before actually, I had a real time of listening to audio books as I was painting, and the most of them were actually, and it was just by coincidence actually, most of them were set in Texas, strangely. But music-wise, I suppose I've got quite an eclectic taste, and I do rather like music that leans towards country, which is not a big thing in this country at all. Big fan of Mary Chapin Carpenter, have been for many years, for about 30 years. Had a lot listened to a lot during lockdown. Listened to a lot of Sheryl Crow. I really like Sheryl Crow's songs. Um, I do like modern stuff too. I mean, I've never been a great fan of things like hip hop and grime and all that sort of thing. Not not a rap person or whatever, but I do like Lady Gaga very much. I think she's amazing. Watched a concert recently, a documentary on YouTube about Pink, who I didn't really know much about, but my God, after watching that documentary, I've got a huge admiration for Pink and the things that she does. I think we probably have, Karen. I am quite a, well, what would you call it, an Americanophile or whatever. I do. I think, I don't know whether it's because when you grow up over here, we watch a lot of American TV, and we still do. My wife Jane and I, you know, almost everything we watch, except for the occasional thing, is comes from over the water. Yeah, we love the American drama series and cop series and all that sort of thing. We just started this last week actually. For me, watching for the first time, and Jane watching, even though she's watched a lot, half of it, good half of it before. We just started watching 24, so that will take us through for a long time, as there are like, was it 226 episodes altogether? So got a long way to go on that one. Really? Don't actually watch much British TV. You know, the big series. Watch the good series. You know. I suppose Are you watching things like what's it called? The Phoebe Waller-Bridge thing. Not Fleabag, though Fleabag's brilliant. Oh, the spy thing with Sandra Ho in it and Jodie Comer. Oh, Breaking Bad. Have we watched Breaking Bad? Oh my goodness, yes, we watched all of Breaking Bad. We came to it late, thank goodness, so we were able to binge watch a huge amount of Breaking Bad. I think it was only the final season that we ended up being able having to watch in real time. But Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, which I think has been just as good. Absolutely loved it. We did watch. There's a series from a few years ago that we loved a few years ago called Fringe, which I think was wonderful. I think a lot of people binge Breaking Bad. Actually, I think it's one of those things. It was really responsible in many ways for the sort of growth of Netflix. I think when people really realised that how good Breaking Bad was, and Breaking Bad was put onto Netflix, an awful lot of people got Netflix contracts specifically because of Breaking Bad. Another series that I really, really enjoyed was Orphan Black. I don't know whether you watched Orphan Black, but I thought Orphan Black was amazingly good. A mixture of funny and complex storyline. I'm marking this out because I've made a little bit of a boo-boo here in my wanting to get it sort of spot on. I should have had that there while I was working on the face, and I made the rookie error of having my hand resting on the paper, which is taken away a lot of the white because it's got a bit dirty under my hand. Not that it's going to matter particularly, because none of it's white. It's going to be textured and coloured anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But what I don't want, what I'm trying to do here is just bring back the lines that I drew last night, so that I don't lose them and make my life even more difficult. Make my life even more difficult than this painting is making it. Well, we're getting there. I'm now aware that it's time really to take a break and go and get some lunch and stretch my legs and all that sort of thing. I've been painting for 1 hour 54 minutes, 56 minutes or whatever it is. I do not want to at this point it's tempting just to keep going and keep going and keep going, but it's probably not a good idea, because when you do that sometimes you find that you end up making mistakes. So I'm going to call it a morning there, and head for the kitchen, get some lunch. I couldn't resist doing this before I go, because that's when it starts to come alive. Well, there it is. So far so good. So far so goody, as they used to say in an old television programme over here. That's where we're at the moment. I think we've caught the likeness. The colours are actually far more like, I don't know why it's not so coloured, maybe I need to saturate it a little bit. The colours are actually far more like the colours in the actual photograph than they look on the screen here. I will take a photograph of it in a minute and put that online, and you will see the colours are very different than what you're seeing on the screen here at the moment, sadly. Columbo reruns, my goodness gracious me. I love Columbo. Perry Mason. I love all those old 1970s. It's nostalgia, isn't it? Magnum and Columbo and oh god, what was the one? Oh god, what was his name? Buddy Ebsen was the guy that used to be Jed Clampett. He did one, and Kojak, of course, and all that sort of thing. Okay, I am now going to take a break, take a photograph, put the photograph online, have a look at the photograph online. It does look, I promise you, different than it does on the screen. I think I need some lighting above me that's not just a fluorescent tube. It's all a matter of learning, isn't it? It's all getting the hang of all this tech is going to take time, but we're getting there. Thank you very much for sticking with me so far, and I will see you all after lunch. Until then, bye bye for now.